Well, good Tuesday morning, everyone. And as we head through the work week, we've got a lot to talk about across the Mahoning Valley, so let's get right to the details. We're kind of in the middle of a train of Alberta Clipper systems. The first one came through Saturday with 2.5, 3 inches worth of snow. Yesterday's brought us another 1.5 to locally 2 inches worth of fresh powder. It's the real light, fluffy snow that you can almost use a broom to sweep away. But of course, it did cause some travel difficulties around rush hour yesterday afternoon. After not a bad midday period, things got a little hairy with a lot of accidents between, say, 3:30 and about 6 o'clock yesterday evening. How much snow is on the ground? Well, in most backyards, we're talking about 3, 4 inches, maybe 5 in local backyards across the Mahoning Valley. And this map shows an estimate of snow depth across the region. This kind of turquoise color corresponds on the chart over here with 4 to 8 inches. Most of us don't have 8 inches, but a lot of us do have 4 inches or so worth of snow in our backyards this morning, and we'll be adding a little bit more to that tonight. The reason? We've got another one of these Alberta Clipper systems, these weak areas of low pressure that originate up here in Alberta province in Canada. They dive south and east, and they typically are kind of moisture starved, so usually we don't see 7 or 8 or 9 inches worth of snow out of these, but typically they do bring 1 to as much as 3 or 4 inches worth of snow to northeast Ohio and western PA. Tonight's is the last in this parade of clippers, and tonight's is also the weakest of the 3 systems, so I'd be surprised if anyone sees 2.5 or 3 inches tonight. Most of us will see 1 inch or so worth of snow coming out of this area of low pressure right here. And that area of low pressure is currently producing snow out across Michigan, heading back towards Wisconsin. Some of these radar returns in Illinois and Indiana aren't quite reaching the ground yet. The air is too dry to allow that precipitation to get all the way to the surface. So this is what we call virga in the weather world. Virga is precipitation that isn't reaching the ground. It's falling out of the cloud, but then it's drying up before it gets down here where we live. Let's take a look at some computer models showing where the snow is going. We just showed you the radar showing where it is now at about 10:15 this morning. Now here is where it is going. As we roll this forward through this afternoon, you can kind of keep track of the time. It's in military time up here in the upper right, so 14 is 2 o'clock. As we roll things forward into this afternoon, here comes the snow. It gets into northwestern Ohio at around 17 hours or 5 o'clock this afternoon. And then by 7 or 8 this evening, I do think it starts to snow here across the Mahoning Valley, and it'll come down at a decent enough clip up through about midnight tonight. And here Wednesday, whoops, the grid undefined, we had a bad graphic there. Wednesday at 1 a.m., notice there's not as much in the way of those blue colors around the region, so I do think the snow is letting up at that point. So our window of decent snows tonight is from about 7 o'clock up until about midnight. Another computer model to take a look at. It kind of confirms that idea. Let's roll this forward to this evening at 7 o'clock. It is starting to snow, and it'll come down at a decent clip up through 9 o'clock. This is the last frame that's available on this computer model showing moderate snow at 9 o'clock this evening. Roads will probably be a little bit slippery, especially secondary roads. Kids wishing to get off school tomorrow, I wouldn't count on that. We're looking at maybe 1 inch or so worth of snow, and most of that accumulation comes before midnight tonight. So by daybreak tomorrow, roads should be in decent enough shape across northeast Ohio and western PA. Here's a graph, and I'll try to explain this the best I can. We like to show you in these videos and also on social media kind of a behind-the-scenes look at what meteorologists look at when they're making a forecast. We look at a lot of things. This is one thing I like to look at. This is a short-range computer model. It's called the SREF. And what this chart is showing is the last 4 runs of this computer model. The oldest run is the red line. The newest run is the blue line. In other words, when I say newest run, the most recent time that this model has been produced. And this model was produced in the middle of the night last night. The most recent run is the blue line down here. The bottom of the chart, the chart shows the time. Again, this isn't in normal people speak, these timestamps. It's kind of in meteorologist jargon, but 0Z corresponds to 7 p.m. So notice at 7 p.m., all of a sudden these lines start jumping. Kind of a flat line, and then they start jumping. That means snow is starting to fall, and it's starting to accumulate. Accumulation numbers are on the left-hand side, and they're a little bit hard to see. I can't really make this any clearer, but this first line is a half an inch. We're up to 1 inch here. 1.5, 2, and 2.5 inches is kind of this line right in through here. Notice the overall trend here. The oldest run of this model is the red line, and yesterday this model was kind of bullish on us getting a couple of inches worth of snow with tonight's system. In fact, it gave us 2.5 inches worth of powdery snow. That's the red line here. The most recent run, the blue line, has much less. Notice it kind of flatlines here at a much lower level. Basically, it gives us 3/4 to an inch worth of snow for tonight. So the trend on this computer model has been less and less snow with tonight's system with each subsequent run. So when we look at trends as weather forecasters, something we like to look at is what is the trend? And the trend is certainly a downward tick in the snowfall amounts with tonight's system. I don't think anybody gets 2.5 inches anymore. I think an inch is what most of us can expect with tonight's storm system. So a little behind the scenes there for National Weather Persons Day today. We're going to show you what these weather persons like myself look at to bring you your forecast on TV every night. Let's roll things forward to the later in the week. Some longer range outlooks here. These computer models are bringing another storm system to the area at the end of the week, but there are some differences. I'm showing you 4 different computer models valid at the same time, Friday morning. All these models are showing the same time period at about 7 o'clock Friday morning. Here's the European computer model showing a low pressure area almost right overhead and another low down here off the coast of North Carolina. All sorts of precipitation around. This is probably kind of a mixed bag of sleet, perhaps freezing rain, some wet snow for us Friday morning if this computer model is right. Here's a look at the Canadian computer model, valid at the same time. Notice it doesn't have as much precipitation across the area. Most of it's east of us. So there's a little bit of a difference there. Here's a North American model, the NAM model, produced here in the U.S., showing almost nothing across northeast Ohio and northwestern and western Pennsylvania. And then the GFS model, also a model produced here across the U.S., does have kind of a blob of precipitation that could be kind of a mixed bag Friday morning. So a lot to be worked out with this Friday system. The details a little fuzzy with the differences in these computer models, so we'll be fine-tuning that forecast all week long. But the bottom line is there is potential for a bit of a sloppy commute Friday morning with potential for a little bit of a mixed bag of precipitation. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. At this point, though, once we're done with that, looks like a pretty good weekend coming up. Here's Saturday afternoon, nothing going on across the area. Temperatures near the seasonal average. Roll things forward to Sunday afternoon. Notice there's a little green off to our west, but I think Sunday is probably a dry day across the area, and temperatures will start to rebound. I think this next system, early next week, is a rain producer. It's going to be warm enough for rain early next week. So we take the good with the bad. Good news is warm up. Bad news is it probably will rain early next week. A lot of our snow that's on the ground will be gone by this time next week. So that's a look at the short range and the long range. Sorry if this video ran a little long. There's a lot to talk about today. Join Jess on 21 News midday and myself on 21 News at 6 and 11 tonight. Make it a great Tuesday.